Well, hello again, everyone. This is Rodney Flowers, bestselling author, keynote speaker, and resilience trainer. I want to welcome you to another episode of the Game Changer Mentality podcast. I am your host, and I have someone here with me today who's joining me, who's an awesome person. She's a CEO, she's an investor, entrepreneur, international speaker, and she served as the CEO of Balance Back, the world's leading manufacturer of diagnostic and treatment devices for dizziness, concussions, and traumatic brain injury. She survived a difficult upbringing filled with violence and abuse and single handedly raised four children and was at one time homeless. Her journey took her from becoming a number one national sales rep to being fired to now becoming CEO of the same company and taking it international. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome Marie Cosgrove to the show. Marie, thank you for being here with us today. How are you?
I'm doing great. And thank you for having me, Rodney. I really appreciate it. I'm
Oh,
honored to be on your show because I just love your story.
well, it's a pleasure to have you here. And as we were talking before the show started, you were sharing some things with me that, I was really unaware of. But I appreciate because I know there's some people in the audience that can relate to, you know, being single and raising four kids. And, there's some things you had mentioned about, domestic violence. I want to talk about that because I really believe that in today's society, people deal with that type of stuff, but we don't talk about it. And so, today you have to be tough. You just suck it up. You just deal with it, and that's very challenging. And that's admirable to some extent. But people are out here suffering, and they need help. And you are an example of what it takes to get through something like that. And perhaps there's some things that you can share. Maybe there's some strategies, some concepts, or ideas that you've adopted that have allowed you to bounce back, to be resilient in the face of those types of challenges. And so I would like to just talk about that, if you will, some of the things that you've done given the challenges that you faced in life to be so successful.
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I guess I can go back to a time when I'm 48 years old now. So my four
You look
kids,
great. You look
thank
great
you,
before the
thank you. The four kids that I raised single-handedly are now adults and they're successful. And thank God they survived my single parenting, but they did. But I'm going to go back to a time when by the time I was 27, I was divorced twice. Both husbands lost parental rights. I had three with my first, and he didn't lose parental rights fully. He still had the ability to see them under supervision, but it was court supervised for 4 hours every other weekend. And he never saw them. And I guess part of it was maybe he didn't want to go through the court system and have to be supervised while he saw the kids. Yeah, I really don't know. But so he just was never in the picture. And then my second husband completely lost parental rights. He was so violent. So he lost parental rights to my fourth one, the one child we had together. And that turned out to be a blessing because it was a very violent situation. And looking back now, I think I have more awareness of what was going on in my mind back then that I didn't realize back then. So back then, I'm going to try to put myself back there, what I remember. With my first husband, I had just become a Christian. So I was like, wow, I'm a Christian now. And I love being a Christian. And just like my heart was changing, the way I was thinking was changing. And, I took the scripture. I was in a church that was very legalistic. So you stay married, you don't divorce no matter what, unless there's adultery. There was no adultery, but there was a lot of physical violence. And I couldn't seem to get myself out. And every time I get beat up so bad, it was somebody else that intervened and saw it, that pulled me out. And then we'd go to counseling and get back together. And I'm like, oh, God's awesome. He's going to save our marriage and our marriage is going to be perfect. And then boom, it happened again. And then, it was a cycle. It kept happening. And finally, I don't know if I would have been able to get out if he had not moved in with another girl, a younger girl, happened to be a teenager at the time. And then it kind of just ended. And it made me sad because in a crazy kind of way, I loved him, but he was still violent. And I know it doesn't make sense. How can you love someone who beats you? It makes no sense. But looking back at it, I didn't have self-confidence. And I don't know if you know my story, but I'm a product of rape. My mother was in a car accident. She had permanent brain damage. And after her car accident, she was raped. And they wanted to abort the baby because she had brain damage. And they said, there's no way she can carry this baby to term, being that she's got mental conditions and is under a lot of medication. And he would bring that to me. And he would say, you're a product of rape. You don't even know who your dad is. And you're lucky I married you. Who would have wanted to marry you? And somehow, subconsciously, I believed that. Even though I was a Christian, I still felt insignificant. I still felt like there was a stain on me, that nothing would take away the stain. I was damaged goods. I was like, I'm lucky he married me. I'd probably not have anyone. And that was my faulty thinking. And looking back at it now, I can tell you I had this low self-confidence and I was believing these lies. And unfortunately, we live in a society where a lot of people we tend to be told things that are not true and we believe it. And unfortunately, we don't get enough validation. We don't get enough people that come to us and tell us you're doing a great job, or notice our positive skills that we may have or what's positive about us. And then we believe these lies. And now that I have a closer relationship with God, I realize that every life is valuable. And I used to look at that part of my life, how I came into the world. And we can't control how we come into the world, but we can determine how we leave this world. Mm-hmm. And I realize now, wow, that was a miracle. And I didn't used to look at it that way. I used to look at it like, well, maybe I should have been aborted. Yeah, maybe I shouldn't be here. So I had this negative self-image about myself. And I ended up repeating the cycle. The second husband I married, I didn't want to marry. And he was involved in the church, and the church thought, well, your kids, they need a dad, and you're a single mom with 3 kids. And I repeated that cycle. I married this man, and it was worse. He was abusive towards my kids. I came home from and now I look at it and I think, wow, it really was a miracle, because I was on a business trip. I came home early. I wasn't supposed to come home early, and my boss dropped me off at home. And I walked in and I see my 3 of my kids, on the floor, and they were kneeling and they were crying, and their dad was sitting on the couch, or stepdad sitting on the couch. And I said, what's going on? And he says, nothing. And I said, why are they crying? And the kids are like, he hit us. And he says, no, they're lying. They're just saying that because they want us to get divorced. And then I looked at my boys, and one of my boys, blood was running down his leg from his shorts. He had hit him with a buckle so hard that the metal part had cut into his skin. So I grabbed the kids. I ran upstairs. I grabbed everything I could, went into our minivan, and I was in San Antonio at this time. So I was driving away. And I was driving away, he follows me. And at that time, on the expressway, it was construction. And so there was only one lane, and I couldn't exit. So he followed me in his truck, and he put his truck right in front of my car, or the van. And he gets out, and he starts knocking on the door and screaming, and the kids are screaming. So I roll down the window. He opens the door, takes the keys, takes one of the kids, and puts him in the truck and leaves. And I had to follow him back home because I wasn't going to let him stay with my son. Then he had to go back to work. And that's when he took my keys to my van. And I couldn't leave. So I called a family member and they came and picked me up. And we left with what we could. And I never went back. And at that time, I was working for a Fortune 500 company, USAA in San Antonio, was making a good 6-figure income. And I had to leave it all behind and just walk away with nothing. And it makes me sad that that's what it took, because it was never anything visible. The kids would complain, he hit us, and there was never any visible signs. It was always like pulling their hair or something, and a lot of verbal abuse towards me, never physical abuse towards me. And I didn't look at it the same way. I looked at it as, well, I'm not getting beat. And that hurt. I can tell you that hurt more than what I went through. And now looking back, I can see that I didn't have the confidence or the courage to have my voice heard, to have that strength and courage to stand up to someone and say, this isn't right. No, I don't, this is not what I want for my life. I was living my life based on what other people wanted for my life, what other people thought would be good for me and my family.
And this is a very serious issue. And it's very heartfelt. Thank you for sharing your story. And I believe there's people out there that's listening to this that may be dealing with this. And this is what I call, and thank God that you're out of it now, but it can be very paralyzing. This is what I call being stuck in a situation, and you're trying to figure out how to move, how to get out of this. And being a female, you start thinking about how you're going to take care of yourself, and if you have children, how I'm going to take care of my children, and that causes people to stay in the relationship. And it's not that you want to be there. I mean, you have a heart and a love for the individual, but it's also the kids and making sure that the kids are taken care of, and all of you all are taken care of. And so I recognize and I acknowledge that it can be a very difficult situation, and a very delicate situation. And so how did you make that pivot, that turn to, like you said, you didn't have the confidence in yourself, or you didn't feel that you were going to be independent enough to make it on your own. What were some of the things that took place that allowed you to make that pivot and start to regain that confidence and that independence?
Well, when I left, I, as a mother, sometimes we put up a lot with a lot of abuse happening to us. Once it happened to my kids, I'm like, oh, heck no, I'm not putting up with this. But after that, I started to evaluate, okay, 27 years old, I have 4 kids now, single mom. There's something wrong with me. What am I doing to cause this? So I started to do inner reflection, and I started to get more into the Bible and reading more, and without the church's filter telling me, this is what you need to read, this is what you need, just reading it. And I remember coming across the scripture which says it's better for a man to hang a millstone around his neck and throw himself into the deep sea than hurt a little one. And at that time, even there were some church members saying, well, you shouldn't get divorced. And I'm like, he just beat my son? I don't think so. And they would quote scripture to me. You're going to be in sin if you divorce. And so I'm no longer part of that church organization, but that was the mentality. So I started just to get into the scripture unfiltered, completely unfiltered. And they would give me books, like prayer books of women sharing their testimonies on how they prayed for their spouse that was violent, and now they weren't violent anymore, and God changed them. And I came to the realization that the person has to want to change. You can't pray for them to change. You can pray for them to change. Yes, you can. And I would pray, God, change me. But you're going to be more effective because if you want to change, you're going to change. But the person has to want to, and you can't force that. And God can't force that because he gives us free will. So if that person doesn't want to change, God's not going to wave a magic wand and say, boom, you're healed. You're not going to be this way anymore if that person doesn't want that change. And so I came to that realization, and reading the scriptures really helped me significantly to pull out of that darkness that I was in. For example, I remember reading, and I used to read the book of Psalms and Proverbs, and talking about, the wellspring of life and how that's available to you. And thinking, wow, what is it that allows us to experience that? And I started to pay attention to my thoughts and what I was feeling and my emotions. And yeah, it was hard. It wasn't something that happened overnight. It was a process, and I still invest a lot in myself and personal development. It's a daily thing because we have daily struggles. But I remember one day being so depressed, so sad, and I was crying and crying, and I'd lock myself in the restroom, turn on a shower, and just cry because I didn't want my kids to see that. But I had brought a journal with me, and I used to say my prayers in a journal. I used to write to God. And in that journal, I saw that I had asked God, because someone before had told me, we think that something's not right here. Your kids are so well behaved and they're so good. And, when he's not around, they're playing around like kids. As soon as he shows up, they become like robots and they're just standing there. Something's wrong. So I prayed that day. I said, God, show me if there's something, reveal it to me. And then I realized, oh my goodness, I was not supposed to be home that day. I was supposed to come home the next day. And God revealed it to me. And he answered my prayer. And I'm like, he is a living God. He does answer your prayers. And going through it, I was thinking, of course, the immediate aftermath of it all, I was like, why did you allow this to happen? Why did you allow this to happen to my kids? And, why? And I realized that, God, we are not God's puppet. We're not. We have free will, and because of that, we're gonna get hurt because someone else may do something that's not the right thing to do, but that person's not a puppet, and God's not going to control that person to make sure we're protected. And sometimes when bad people make bad choices, they affect good people too. But God can help us through that situation, and he can give us the strength we need and the wisdom to maybe get out of that situation, or the strength that we need if we ask him. If we ask him for wisdom, he'll give it to us. We ask him for the strength, he'll give it to us. And that's what he did. He gave me the strength to pull through that situation.
Wow, that is so beautiful. I think about people that are in that situation, and it's so easy to blame themselves. I mean, and you mentioned that briefly, that there was a moment where you blamed yourself. You had to look at yourself. What would you say to an individual that's listening and is currently in that situation, and they blame themselves, and maybe they see themselves as inadequate or have done something in the past that is being held on to and is being the reason or the excuse for the abuse to continue on, and they feel like that's acceptable? What do you say to that person?
I would say that it doesn't matter what they've been through. No one deserves to be abused and to be beat, regardless of the mistakes you've made, haven't made, or the choices you've made. No one deserves that. And I know that because I was there. I felt maybe I did deserve this. If you asked me back then, I wouldn't have admitted that to you. I would have just said bad luck. But now that I know what I know and I understand how your subconscious mind works, I do recall being told, oh, even my second husband, oh, who would have married you with 3 kids? You're lucky I married you. Nobody would have wanted a woman with 3 kids. And just constantly this negativity. And I began to believe that. And it's hard when you're in that situation and all you hear is negativity because they're programming you. They're programming your mind. And it's affecting your self confidence and your subconscious mind. And it's a very hard thing to do. So what I would say is surround yourself with people who support you, who build you up, and invest in personal development, in coaching and mentor. Find yourself a mentor, find yourself a coach that can help you to overcome this, because it's not easy to do it alone. It's not. And you need as many resources as you can get, and they're out there, they're available to you. So that's what I would say, that it's not your fault. You don't deserve it. It doesn't matter. And I know that's hard to believe, because you're being told that and you're thinking, well, yeah, I've had a, nobody else is going to want me. That's what I used to think. Nobody else is going to love me. I don't just, nobody deserves that. Nobody deserves to be abused and hurt, regardless of where you came from.
And I just want to foot stomp this, because, I completely agree that a lot of people that find themselves in this situation are being programmed. And that too is one of the reasons why it's so hard to leave, because you've been programmed to believe that you need to stay in this situation for whatever reason. And it's so unfortunate when you believe that you need to stay there because you don't believe in yourself, because you don't believe you have the strength or the know-how to change it. And I just want to say here that for anyone that's listening that is dealing with that, you are beautiful, and you have the ability to walk away. You have the ability to have a new life. You have the ability to create something better for yourself. And if you have kids, for yourself and your kids. And you correct me if I'm wrong, Marie, I really believe that creating that vision, holding on to what that looks like, because every day you come home and you have to live through the experience of doom and gloom, begin to create the life that you want in your mind, and begin to, like you said, get the people around you that can support you and this new vision of yourself, and keep that in front of you, and begin to actually put that in front of you more so than the experience that you are experiencing. Because, this programming, the subconscious mind, can really believe that you're supposed to be there. In order to change that, we have to change at the subconscious level that we deserve something else, and that there is something else available for us. And I really believe in, creating that vision, creating a new environment, putting yourself in a different environment. And I know it takes time. It takes time for us to get to that place where we truly believe and know and feel comfortable with doing something different. But it's worth the time, it's worth the effort, and it's worth you living the life that you really want to live. Because to live this way in front of your kids, in my mind, is just not acceptable. And I'm just grateful that you have been able to come out of this situation. And I'm really passionate about this, because I know there's so many people out there that are not as fortunate as you are, and they're screaming. They're like fish in an aquarium screaming, but no one can hear them. And so, in addition to the environment and the support groups, because I think a lot of the work that has to be done is work that has to be done at an individual level. And I'm not like placing that whole responsibility on, the person that's in this experience and saying, hey, you have to do this alone. But I just know that it takes that level of effort. And so what are some recommendations, in addition to the environment, and reading the Bible and having that faith? Are there any strategies that you would recommend, any ideas that people can adopt to do this? Because here's the thing, and the reason why I asked, Marie, is because it's a common answer. It's a great answer. However, I know there's people listening that say, I've heard that before. Mm-hmm. I can't believe that everyone that's in that situation hasn't ever read their Bible, or they haven't ever prayed, or they haven't spoken to someone to help them. But yet, if you look at the stats, there's a lot of people that are in this situation. And if we're going to make a difference, a game-changing difference, there has to be something that we do differently. And so I really want to pull from you, if there's anything that you've done, that may be a little unorthodox or a little bit different than what has been said. Is there anything in addition to what you said that you can offer up for people in this situation?
I'm sort of going to echo what you said, because what you said is so very true about visualizing a better life for yourself. And that is so important to do. Here's some things that I did. One of the first things to do, which is very, very hard, is to forgive your abuser.
Mm.
That is hard to do. That is one of the most important steps that you can take, because it's for you, it's not for them. It's for you to bring yourself healing so that you don't have that bitterness and that anger in your heart, because then you can take that bitterness and that anger in future relationships onto your children, and that's something you don't want to do. So that is one of the most important steps that I took, is forgiveness. Another thing that is really important, just like you said, Rodney, is visualizing your new life, because today's a new day. Yesterday is gone. We can't change the past, but you can design tomorrow. And one of the things that you can do is visualization. If visualization is hard for you, a lot of people do this, is they create their own storyboards. Cut out, this is the car I want, this is the house I want, put it on a little storyboard and look at that on a daily basis. I know it sounds silly and, kind of juvenile, but it does work, because you've seen that what happens is you start to see this better future for yourself. You start to take action on a daily basis. And then that's the next thing, is what small step can I take today to pull me forward? Because it's not going to be, a lot of times we think, oh, that's impossible. Yeah, I want a new house. I want a better living conditions for me and my family. But going from where I am now to that step seems almost impossible, because it's such a huge step. So you take the next possible step. You're in an impossible situation. To get out of an impossible situation and to make it possible is by taking the next possible step. So what's the next possible step I can take today? And it doesn't have to be big. It's a small step. Okay, maybe I need a new job. Start looking for jobs. That's the next possible step, right? Maybe it's I need a mentor. Find a mentor that has experience in this field, or a coach that has experience in this field who can help me get to the next possible step. So it's taking these small steps, these small actions that you can take today to move forward. And then you will start seeing that as you start moving towards your goal, your big goal that you have envisioned, you'll start taking these small steps and it starts to become a reality. And I'm not saying that you're not going to have challenges along the way. You will have challenges along the way. But like I said, surround yourself with people who support you. And if you can't find anyone who supports you, reach out to people like Rodney, like myself, or, other people that you can reach out to that specialize in personal development to help you get past your current situation. Another thing that you can do is, and Rodney, you and I are very familiar with this, is being thankful for what you do have. And I know it's hard because we tend to think of, oh my goodness, I'm going through this, this, and this, and this, and this. And when we start thinking negatively of all the negative things that are occurring around us, that affects our emotions. So what happens is our emotions become negative, and we begin to get our minds filled with fear, with hate, with anger, with regret, with all these negative emotions. And what happens when we fill our minds with these negative emotions, our body starts producing harmful hormones. For example, our cortisol levels go up. We start, our sugar levels go up, which creates diabetes. It creates, you can have weight gain because of it. And so then not only are you affecting yourself emotionally, but physically, because now we have studies that show when you have a negative thought, and we can now record this because I'm in the healthcare industry, so we can see this happening. You're actually making it more difficult to get out of that situation by focusing on all the hardships. Yes, it is hard. Yes, you are going through this hard time. But what are some positive things that are happening in your life? And there's always something to be thankful for, always. Okay, you have food on the table today. Thank God I have food on the table. Thank God I have a roof over my head. I remember when I lost my house, I lost my car, I lost everything. I didn't have a car. Me and my 4 children had no place to go. We lost it all. And the only place we could go was my aunt's house. And we were sleeping on the living room floor. They had a small house, they didn't have room for us. So we slept on the living room floor. And I could be like, oh, darn it, I'm on the floor. That's my house. It was a very nice house. I went from six-figure income to zero. And then I've got nothing. I don't have a house. I don't have a car. I have nothing. But instead of focusing on that, I was like, thank God I have my children. Thank God we're safe. Thank God that they're not being abused anymore and they will never be abused again. Thank God we have a roof over our head. And I just started thinking positive every day. What are the things I am thankful for today? Every day, make it a habit. And it's hard because when you program yourself to think negative, oh my goodness, I can't believe this happened again. Oh, now this. Oh, I can't believe this. That's how you're operating on a daily basis. So it's going to take practice. And that's why you need an accountability partner that's going to support you, a coach and a mentor that's going to help you get through that so that you can reprogram your mind and recondition yourself so that you're thinking positive thoughts and your life will definitely change. Because if you start thinking positive, if you think positive, the powerful hormones start developing in your body. Just, if you're happy and you're like, wow, I'm so thankful for this, your body produces serotonin, for example. That's the same hormone that's produced when you eat chocolate. And it's like healthier for you. You don't have to eat the chocolate. Just be happy and be thankful for what you do have. So the positive hormones start producing in your body by you changing your thoughts. You start getting healthier emotionally and physically. And that's going to give you the energy that you need to push forward.
Wow. Very practical advice, something that everyone, even if you're not going through a challenging situation right now, you can take that information and really put it to work and begin to change your life. And one thing I want to attack here is for people that may find themselves in this situation. When we talk about being grateful, you know I really challenge you, because some people will say, because I'm going to stay because he's putting the roof over my head, or he's doing this or he's doing that. And that's, I got that he may be doing that, but that, you have to really weigh, is it worth him abusing you verbally or physically, or your children, because he's providing something for you. And really, people will hold you to that, as hostage, because they're doing this for you. And I want you to understand that is not something to be grateful for. That in itself is a form of abuse. And so you have to remove yourself from that. And I also want to say that being a person that was paralyzed before, you know, um, it is hard. And one of the things that I found that helped me was to be grateful for my situation, even though I couldn't walk, even though I felt like something had been taken from me. I was grateful that I was alive. I was grateful that even though I couldn't walk, I still had opportunity. And I knew there were some things I needed to do, some environmental changes I needed to make, some things that I needed to do to overcome that. But I was grateful for the opportunity to do it, the opportunity. And I really love what you said about looking for the positive. I believe in harvesting the good out of every situation in life, regardless of how bad it is. And that goes back to the free will that you were talking about earlier. You have a choice to do that. I teach a program on how to manage resistance. And when we talk about the resistance showing up, the challenges that show up, and harvesting the good out of it, what we want to look at are the positive potentials out of it. And obviously, in this situation, it's the new life, the life where you're not being abused, the life where your children are free to be kids without the fear of someone harming them, and you not having anyone, taking your self-identity away from you, and allowing you to flourish into the beautiful person that you are. And that's a positive potential. And I think every woman, every female deserves that. They should have that opportunity to be that, to be the wonderful mother to their kid, to be the beautiful woman that they are. And if you find yourself in a situation, you're finding it hard to identify, well, what's a positive outcome of this situation. It could be just that you get the opportunity to be free, to not have fear, to live a life where you can make a decision to go and do something for yourself or for your kids and not have the fear of someone harming you because of that decision. That is a positive potential for you, one that is worth pursuing, in my in my opinion. And so um I just want to say that, I think whenever you find yourself in that situation, that vision board, creating that new life by design, everyone has that ability to do that. And it's the strength and the courage, having the strength and the courage to say no more to the life that you don't want, and saying yes, yes, yes to the life that you do want, and really taking action on that. And so now, Marie, you are a CEO of your company. Tell us about that. How were you able to create that and design that in your life?
Well, I remember when I was now a single mom with 4 kids. I don't have a place of my own, and 2 of my kids had serious conditions. My son had a condition that required weekly shots, physical therapy every day. It was an autoimmune disease that affected his organs. He would he had joint problems. He couldn't make a fist. Just any small movements hurt him tremendously. He would grow calcium deposits all over his arms and his elbows. And the physicians said that without medication, he'd be dead in 6 months. With medication, we'll be looking at him living to at least 18 years old. He's 27 today.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yes, but
Awesome.
at that time, that's what I was facing. And my daughter was suffering from post-traumatic stress syndrome from the violence that she had experienced. So my medical expenses were quite high, looking
Mm-hmm.
at 10,000 a month medical
Wow.
expenses. Out of pocket, no insurance. Now I did do the Cobra with the USA, but that soon ran out and I didn't have anything else. And I knew that having to go to the doctor every single day, counseling sessions, etc., there's no way I could do a 40-hour-a-week job. So I thought, well, let me try sales. I could do sales and make my own hours and do commission only. If I do commission only, nobody has to worry about me checking into a time clock and getting out. As long as I meet the quota, I'm good. I applied everywhere. Nobody would give me a job. I finally got a job offer at a radio station and I was so excited. But they said, we don't have that type of arrangement. It's salary plus commission. And I said, I can't do the salary part. Just give me commission and give me a higher commission. Said, oh, no one's asked for that. That's weird. And we can't do that. That's not, it's a big corporation. That's not their policy. And I couldn't do that because I couldn't come in at 8 a.m. and check in and check out at 5 because I had doctor's appointments throughout the day. So I had a opportunity with a medical device company, and I met this person through a doctor friend of mine, and she said someone came to my office today selling this equipment, and they said they don't want to sell in this area. But this time I was in McAllen, Texas at the time. I'm in Dayton, Ohio today. And she said, he doesn't want to come down here. It's too hot. It doesn't like the area and needs someone, and I recommended you. So I met with him and I was showing him my marketing portfolio and everything I could do. And he's like, girl, this is sales. You're never going to make it in sales. And I said, oh, I have experience in sales. I have managed a $400 million budget for a Fortune 500 company. He's like, no, that's different. That's not sales. So I finally convinced him to give me an interview with his boss, the president of the company. And I spoke to him and he said, kept telling me no, every reason why I wouldn't make it. And I said, look, let me go to your training. And if I don't pass your test and I don't make the training, then fine, just give me a chance. I'll pay my own way. You have nothing to lose. I'm paying everything. It's fine. So I went to training, and I'm the only female. I'm the only minority. I'm full, this is back when I was in my late 20s, and a room full of 6'2" or taller guys, white guys in their suits, very intimidating looking. And here's little old me. I'm barely 5 feet with heels. So I walked in, but I did well. I passed all the tests, and I'm really excited because I'm like, yes, I passed all the tests. I'm gonna, I got like extremely well. I think I did better than anyone else. So I said, for sure, I'm in. He walks up to me and he's like, little girl, you're just not going to make it in this industry. This is a male dominated industry. And with your little girl voice, the most you're ever going to sell is candy. Go home. And I was like, wait a minute. I said, I can do this. And I told him, give me 30 days, straight commission. You have nothing to lose. I finally convinced him to give me a contract, straight commission, 30 days. I didn't sell. He didn't lose anything. He didn't pay me anything. So I went back home, excited to prove him wrong. And my grandfather, who helped raise me, was diagnosed with leukemia. So that was a very hard thing for me. He was in the hospital. I went to go see him, and I was there by his bedside every day. He passed away the third week, and I received a call from the president saying, we're canceling your contract. You haven't sold anything. And I said, nope, I've got 1 week left. I said, I told him what happened about my grandfather, that we had just buried him, but give me 1 week. And he just laughed, hung up on me. But that week, I exceeded my quota for the next, 3 to 6 months. $150,000 worth of sales that last week. And
wow.
I soon became the #1 national sales representative, but it was a distribution company that I was working for, and they lost their contract with the products I was selling. So there I was again, the manufacturing company contacted me and they said, you're so good at sales, we want to give you a contract, and we fired the other company. And I'm like, the president was calling me saying, if you go work for them, we're going to sue you. I'm like, well, I can't afford a lawsuit. I'm a single mom, 4 kids. I've got these medical expenses. I can't do that. I started looking for the companies to sell for that were not competing. And then I found Balanceback, a manufacturer of medical diagnostic devices for dizziness. And it was kind of the same thing, the struggle, but I already had a track record of what I could do. So I finally got the position of sales, independent sales, and I did really well. And I remember I was making like 70 to 100,000 a month.
Wow.
And then I got a call from the president, or not the president, one of the owners. There was like 10 different owners. One of the owners called me and says, I'm going to meet you in Austin, because I was doing an install with UT Austin that week. And he says, I'm going to meet you. And I thought, wow, this is awesome. This big executive's coming from home office to meet with me. Something good's going to happen. He's like, we're really proud of you. You're doing really well. But, we're tired of writing these checks to you. You're making more money than the engineers and the doctors in the organization. So we're going to put you on salary, $150,000 a year. So now I've got these $10,000 a month medical bills. I'm paying for my own travel, my own marketing. So it wasn't like all profit either. And then they wanted to put me on $150,000 a year salary. I was like, I don't think so. There's no way I could support my family on that as a single mom with the type of expenses that I have. I can't do it. So they said, well, if you can't do that, then you can't sell for us and you're fired. So I went from making nearly $1 million a year to zero. I lost it all again.
Wow.
So here I am, zero, And so I don't, at this time I was practicing this positivity, what am I grateful for? What am I thankful for? I'm like, well, you know what? I'm so thankful I have all of these relationships. I know all these neurologists, I know all these doctors, and I started to sell for other companies. But I thought maybe I can build a product. And I asked them, what is it that you need? And I started to fill a need. And I worked with some engineers, worked with some clinicians, developed the product, got it FDA cleared. It wasn't easy by all means at all. It was difficult. I had challenges with FDA saying, no, it's not approved, change this, do this, and going through a year of, it's very expensive going through the process to bring a product to market. And within 2 years, we turned it into a $14 million organization. And then I get a call from one of the owners who had fired me. And he says, hey, you're doing really, really well. We think you might be interested in investing in our company. I could have told him, yeah, go stick it somewhere, right? But, there's always a possibility, right? So what seems impossible, we always look at it as being an impossibility, but there's always possibility in the impossible. So I looked at possibilities and I said, well, you know what? Let me look at your numbers. Let's see what they look like. Would you let me look at your financials? He said, sure. So I flew up to Dayton, Ohio, looked at the financials, and I saw that when they were the most profitable, I had made most of the sales. So I said, I don't want to invest. I want to buy the company. So after 6 months of negotiations, I bought the company. And I was told, in the industry, there's always this gossip and stuff. And so the distributors were telling me, oh, Marie, that what they're saying is that you're going to be bankrupt within 6 months and you're going to bankrupt yourself and the company. And that's, what we hear out in the marketplace. Like, don't worry about it. Now, there's always going to be people saying negativity. 8 years later, we're an international company, and our equipment is at most hospitals in Hong Kong. We're in Canada. We're in South America. And it's challenging. I mean, I'm not saying it's all been easy. It hasn't been. That throughout the 8 years, we've had regulatory changes where they came out and said, internal medicine doctors can't really do this testing. It has to be a neurologist. You have to have this advanced training to be able to do this test, because there's been a lot of fraud in billing. There were doctors that were just billing because of the reimbursement and they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. So what they decided was, if we make it more strict, it'll be harder for just anybody to run this test. So that eliminated my target audience, who I had, cut it into, we went from, 90% of these doctors to like 20% that can do this. So then we started expanding internationally. So it's just, okay, here's an impossible situation. What can we do? And so what I thought, let's take it international. Let's, since half of our audience is gone here, let's go somewhere else and find it. So you always have to constantly be looking at the possibilities when you're faced with those challenges. And that's how we grow, and I'm sure you've heard this, Rodney. We go to school, we study, we take a test, then we get elevated to the next level, right? So we go from elementary to junior high, and you can't get there without passing the test. But in life, we get the test first, then we get the lesson. And so what I've done is, every time I'm facing an adversity, what lesson is in here? What's the possibility in this situation?
Wow. That is beautiful. That is so beautiful. And that's a lot of success. I'm blown away at this story. I think it's phenomenal. And if you had to contribute a couple of things to that success, because really you've gone from being in a place where you're being abused to a single mom raising 4 kids to CEO of a multi-million-dollar company, buying a multi-million-dollar company. What? And I get looking at the positive potentials. I get that as well. What are some key contributors to your success that you would like to share with the audience?
Well, for me personally, it's my faith in God. That's just number one, is faith and hope, having that hope. Because by no means, I'm not an engineer, I'm not a doctor, I don't even have a college degree. But what I've done is, I work with some of the smartest people in the industry that are able to bring all of this together. And it really is the simple things, because I have seen hugely successful people, very educated with double PhDs. I know a doctor who is a lawyer, a doctor, Ian has a PhD and his whole life is in shambles and right now is facing 20 years of federal prison. And it's things that, you know, when you look at it, it's things of operating out of fear, operating out of someone's out to get me always. And I remember when, before he got his law license, because of the industry I'm in, I get to meet a lot of physicians from all walks of life. And I remember him telling me, I'm going to get my law license because everyone's out to get me. You know, they're out to take me down. And I was like, you're a doctor. You're so educated. You know, I wish, you know, what I do with, you know, a doctorate degree, that's amazing. And just this negativity. And what I have found is even someone who's at a very high multi-million dollar level I've seen them lose it all. Someone at a very low level, I've seen them gone up. But, you know, and I've seen people that don't have a lot, but they're happy, they're joyful, they have reached success. And success isn't always, you know, in material things. It's really something that's inside of you. And for me, that's what it's been. It's my faith in God and looking at the positivity and the beauty in life. Every day I wake up and I look at what's around me and just take it all in. You know, right now in Ohio, it's green and beautiful. And in Texas, it's never green. I mean, I think we grew up thinking grass is really, you know, like a burnt tan or brown. I don't think we knew what the color of grass was, but it's so green and beautiful. And I just take in the little things every day, the beauty of life, you know, being thankful. And it's those little things that really change your inner being and the way you think, and you start to see things differently and appreciate who you are, because every single one of us, every single one of you is beautiful. Every single one of you is beautiful, and every single one of you is unique, and every single one of you has a purpose, and it's not the same purpose. You know, a lot of times I was speaking to someone and I asked her, you know, what's your goal? To make $1 million. Okay, your goal is to make $1 million, but why? Well, I just want $1 million. If I had $1 million, I'd be happy. And what I see is with this person is they've been chasing that $1 million and they're miserable because they can't find the $1 million. And I'm like, find what fulfills you, what makes you happy, your passion, and the money will come. Don't worry about the money, because without the passion, the money will never get here. You're just going to be chasing the $1 million or chasing perfection. Find who you are, or stop trying to copy someone else or what somebody else's purpose. Life purpose may not be your life purpose. I see so many people say, well, I wish I was CEO of the company. You know, I've had distributors say that. I wish I was the CEO of the company. Well, my purpose may not be your purpose. Your purpose may be something totally different. You know, it may be something even outside of this industry. And a lot of times we compare ourselves to others or others. Well, if I just had their success, if I just did what they did, or they might be like you, Rodney. Oh, I want a podcast. If I was like him, everything would be fine. No, be like you, who you are, because God created you very, very special with a unique purpose in life.
That's so beautiful. Marie, I want to thank you for stopping by and sharing with us and being with us and sharing your story and being vulnerable. I can't thank you enough for being so vulnerable and open with us on the show today. This has been amazing. If people wanted to contact you, if they wanted to seek you out for advice or support, for business, you know, advice, how can they find you?
They can find me on mariecosgrove.com. On Facebook, follow me on Facebook or Instagram at Marie Cosgrove. And, you know, if you reach out to me, I will respond.
That is so awesome. I want to thank you for, you know, being here on the show with us today. This has been, you know, very enlightening for me. And it's not many people that that can do that for me. So I just want to say thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your story. And for those that are listening, I mean, this has been amazing. This is, you know, a wealth of knowledge and information for us to apply to our lives. And I'm really grateful for, my accident and the struggles that I've had in life, because it really has made me, into the individual that I am now. It's given me so much more strength, so much more self-awareness. And I think self-awareness is one of those things that I'm most grateful for, because I don't know if I would be as self-aware without going through the experience that I've gone through in life. And, to say that you're thankful for, some type of abusive situation. I've never been in an abusive situation, so it's a far stretch for me. But, overall, I believe that all the challenges that we go through in life, they come with it the seed of a possibility, just exactly what you talked about. And it's really, not so much focusing on the challenge, but identifying what's possible in the situation, and taking action towards that, the positive possibilities. Again, Marie, thank you for sharing your words of wisdom with us today. Are there any last words that you would like to share with the audience?
Just remember that your greatest ability is possibility.
Oh, I love that. Your greatest ability is possibility, and coins well with what we say at the end of every show. Greatness is your birthright. Thank you guys for listening, and until the next show, peace and love.